Hello and thanks for joining me. As you can see, I'm in my workshop today and I've got my Triumph Scrambler 1200 up on the workbench. Whenever I'm doing some work in the workshop, I always think to myself, would a video of this be useful for other owners? And in this case, I think it would be, so that's why I'm videoing it. By no means do I video everything that I do in the workshop, but in this case, I'm going to remove the fuel tank from the bike, the petrol tank or the gas tank if you're American. It's a job that you have to do to get access to various things on the bike, so it's quite a common job. And I have seen questions on forums where people say, oh, I don't know how to do that. So this is going to be hopefully quite a quick video, just how you remove the fuel tank from a Triumph Scrambler 1200. This is the XE model, but I believe they're all the same. The first thing you'll need to do is remove the seat from the bike. If you've never done this before, you can see there's a little key hole down here that you insert the bike key into. You turn it and you'll hear a click and then you can lift the seat off. With the seat off the bike, you can gain access to this nut and bolt, this bracket here. So undo the nut off this end, the bolt on the other end, remove that, and then you will be able to lift up the rear end of the fuel tank. Now, this is rather difficult to see. I'm trying to shine a torch in here whilst hand holding the camera, but can you see there is a breather pipe just here that comes off the fuel tank? So you need to just pull that off. You can just pull it down and it disconnects. Right, it's very easy to pull off. There's the pipe disconnected. In fact, if you forget to take that off, I once took the fuel tank off and forgot to disconnect it, and it just pulls off anyway when you lift the tank off. But best to disconnect it properly like this. Before I go any further, I should just mention, because I forgot to mention it at the start, it makes this job much easier if there is little or no fuel in the petrol tank. If you're doing this with a full petrol tank, then obviously it's a lot heavier to lift. So either wait until you've got very little fuel in the tank or drain it out. With that retaining bolt removed from the rear of the tank, you can lift the tank up, as you see I have done here. And before you can lift the tank right off, you need to firstly disconnect the fuel hose here, but also disconnect the electrical connectors, which are just up under here, you can see, for the fuel gauge and for the fuel pump, the two different connectors. So in order to be able to get to those and have both hands to do the disconnecting, it's useful to have something you can prop the rear of the tank up like this. So this is one of the more specialist tools I keep in my workshop. This little block of wood, which is just the right size to hold the rear of the fuel tank up out of the way. I'm sure you will be able to devise something to do that if you don't have this very expensive specialist tool here. I've just zoomed in on the fuel line connector here so you can see that. If you've not encountered one of these before, it might be a bit mystifying, but they are actually very simple. So you slide this little clip forward like that, which then reveals a little button, and there's one on either side, which you squeeze in. And when you squeeze, I'm not going to be able to do this without getting my hand in the way. When you squeeze those in, then you can pull the fuel connector off the top. Now, you can buy a specialist set of pliers for accessing that and squeezing it in, but I find just with a little bit of fiddling with my fingers, get my finger and my thumb round there, which I'm not going to be able to do without obscuring the camera, I can squeeze those in and then just pop that off. That's the connector popped off. You just get a tiny little bit of fuel dribbling out, so you can see I've just got a bit of workshop tissue there just to catch the fuel. So you can see that's the pipe that runs down there, and that's the connector from the fuel tank. It's very easy squeezing these two buttons in, but what I find is don't try and use excessive oh, there's still a bit of fuel coming out. Don't try and use excessive force. What I do is just wiggle it backwards and forwards like that, and then it comes up very easily and slides off, rather than really pushing it hard. It's not too, once you squeeze those buttons in, it's not too tight and it comes off. I've spent a lot of time on that. It's just because my experience is a lot of people struggle with getting that disconnected. Hopefully that helps, clarifies for you. I've moved the camera around slightly so you can better see these two connectors that I mentioned. So these are the electrical connectors here. It's difficult getting lighting on this and showing you, but you need to disconnect those. And again, they're just standard electrical connectors. You need to press in the tabs and pull them out. It is a bit fiddly, I'll warn you, before I start. I know because I've done it before. It's a bit fiddly. Just be patient and you will get them undone. That's the connectors undone now. As I said a minute ago, it is a bit of a fiddly job, and if you've not done something like that before, you know, it is very easy to get frustrated. But I think there is a sort of specialist tool you can get for depressing the tabs there, but I just use a little flat end screwdriver, and I've actually found that the most powerful tool in my toolkit is patience, particularly when you're not a professional mechanic working against the clock, you know. So what I do is I press the little tabs in with a small flat end screwdriver, and then just use a very gentle wiggling motion, pulling and wiggling motion, rather than trying to force it, and they do come out. But it's not that bad a job. And of course, once you've had them apart a few times, as I have now, they do get easier to pull apart, because I'm going to grease those up with some electrical grease before I put them back together again. I've come around the other side of the bike now, just so you can see better what I'm doing. But with the fuel line disconnected, the electrical wires disconnected, and the breather pipe round on my side disconnected, you should now be able to remove the fuel tank by sliding it backwards off the lugs at the front of the frame. So I'll remove this block of wood, that's done its job now, and then just wiggle the tank, moving it backwards, and you'll feel it release, and then you can just lift it off like this. Oh dear, I just lifted the tank off to find I seem to have found a passenger, a rather deceased passenger. Obviously, during my travels in the summer, it's a dragonfly underneath the tank, and obviously deceased and badly decomposed, poor little thing. So I'll just clean that off. But anyway, you can see these are the forward lugs that the tank hooks into. So that is the fuel tank off, and as you can see, then you can gain access to all the things that you might need to, you know, get to. Hope you found that video useful. Thanks for watching.